Well, hello, and thank you for joining me this evening. Come on in and take a seat because class is now officially in session. Have you ever wondered what makes a school run efficiently and effectively? Have you ever thought about what is high quality instruction? Have you ever wondered how do you meet the needs of a diverse range of students inside of a classroom? How was it that teachers received funding to buy supplies to engage students in real world and relevant curriculum? What does a principal really do? Have you ever asked yourself, is discipline really fair across the board for students despite their race or their sex? How is it that funding is applied to a school district? And why does it vary from school to school and from district to district? What rules and regulations really guide the work that leaders and teachers do each and every day? Are students and teachers really treated equitably? Do they see themselves as a diverse unit? Is inclusion really a thing that happens in school? Will you have to wonder? No more. This is the place where those questions, those thoughts are answered, because here we provide access to information to teachers, leaders, parents, and all stakeholders who find value in education. My name is Dr. Christopher Holmes, and this is Teacher Talks. Well, welcome everybody to Teacher Talks. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Holmes. So, we are going to have an interesting conversation tonight. But before we get started, I want everybody to do what we always do: get in the chat, tell me who you are, tell me where you're watching from, tell me, are you a parent, teacher, administrator, or just somebody who is interested in education, who fights for equity, who fights for equality, who fights for students, who fights for teachers, who overall fights and believes in education. Uh, it is going to be an interesting conversation. So go ahead and tag somebody, share this link with somebody, share it with your friends, share it with your mom, share it with your siblings. You may want to sit and watch this with your children. I promise this is a child-friendly episode. All of them are not child-friendly, but this one is a child-friendly episode because it will foster a conversation between you and your child. Now, if you haven't watched the last two episodes, I encourage you to go back and watch part one and part two of the episodes entitled Are White Places Safe Spaces for Black Students? Really good conversation, great dialogue with you guys as audience members. You continue to provide great conversation, great questions, great clarity, even great examples. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in and contributing to this discussion that we have each and every Thursday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here on Teacher Talks. So if it's your first time, I am an ed consultant. I spend most of my time traveling around working with school districts, working with teachers and leaders, really trying to fight to ensure, one, teachers have capacity to do their job. Two, students are provided with a high quality education for all students. And then number three, we are actually moving the needle in the search for higher achievement and higher performance from all stakeholders, teachers, students, parents, everybody, that we are outperforming ourselves and improving our scores in academics each and every year. Now, if you have been somewhere under a large rock, I mean, it would have to be a humongous rock, then you have not been in tune with what's been going on social media everywhere. Everybody is talking about this slap that has been heard around the world. So I said, hey, I want to get a little piece of that too. Okay. I want to know what's going on. I want to hear about this slap. I want to talk about this slap. So that's what we're going to do tonight. But we're going to put a spin on it. We're going to change the context of our conversation and we're going to make it apply to education. Now, we still are going to talk about the situation, but I do want to frame it around education so that we can talk about this topic. What are some things that trigger adults and students in schools? So we're going to use the Will Smith and Chris Rock example and contextualize it to frame a narrative around not being able to trigger people. So if you're a leader, how do you not trigger your adults? If you are a teacher, how do you not trigger students? How do you not trigger students? So that we don't see behaviors that now, one, that person who has been triggered is embarrassed and regretful and having to apologize for, and two, the person that pressed that button that poked the bear can be accountable for their behaviors, for contributing to that person flying off the handle, doing something or saying something that they now regret. Now, I see you watching, so I know you're here. I want to know where you're watching from. Just say, give me a what's up, give me a shout out. I want to appreciate you and thank you for watching. I will start by saying hello in the chat so that you know the chat is available. I'm also a little bit later going to throw a link in. If you want to come in and join me live, I also want you to do that because I want to have a real conversation around the incident itself and around the conversation that we're going to have framed as it relates to education and schooling environments to create cultures that are accepting and that are considering other people and their experiences, all of that. So hello, Miss Jackson. I see you. Thank you for watching. I see you guys watching on Facebook. I see you guys watching on LinkedIn. And of course, I have my family over there on YouTube that are watching. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe. Thank you for joining, and then go ahead and share it with somebody. Miss Colbert is watching. She says hi there. If you don't know Miss Colbert, she's so sweet. So I can hear her little sweet voice in my head as I see the words hi there. So hi there to you again, Miss Jackson. Thank you for giving me a shout out. For Miss Colbert, thank you for being here and watching all the way over there on Facebook. Now, what I want to do is I want to watch this. Okay, we're going to watch is a quick video of the slap. You know what slap I'm talking about, the boom, the slap. That's what we're going to call it. It's just the slap. If you say the slap, everybody knows what you're talking about. But I want you to watch it a little bit differently. I want you to watch Will Smith's body language. I want you to consider his history, his past, maybe what's happened to him that day. And then I want you to listen to what Chris Rock says and then look at how Will responds from beginning to end. And then we'll come back and have a conversation. All right. But I want you to think about triggers. That's the focus of this talk. Focus on triggers. Focus on triggers. All right. So I'll this up because it's everywhere, right? I just don't want to watch a whole long video. I really want this to be short. Now, if you have not seen this, just looking into I don't know what to tell you. I mean, even if you didn't watch the actual show, you should have seen this video or heard about it. Even my mother has heard about this video. She called me the next day and asked me about it. So very, very funny. This is the things we talk to our parents about now, I think are hilarious. But yeah, she called me about this video. And so I want to show it. Now, again, if you're not in the chat, you haven't given me a shout out, I'm going to call you out because I see all the people that are here. I know the number. I see the number, people, so you can't hide. So you might as well just say, what's up? Now, let's see who's there. Oh, I see Jeanette. Hello, Jeanette. That's my cousin, y'all. What's up for you? What's up to you? Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. Now, my mother is not, she's normally here, but who knows what she's doing right now. But she normally always watches. Y'all say hello to my cousin Jeanette, who's tuning in. Shout out to her. She says hello in her soft voice. All right. I think we have it here. Again, I'm trying to make sure we don't get a whole bunch of conversation from some of these commentators that have shown this shown this slap. And shout out to our
tonight, Javier.
Shout out to our Australian family members who actually shared the unfiltered version of the slap, because I wouldn't have seen the whole thing. So I appreciate that. All right, so here we go. Remember, watch it from a lens of an educator. Think Chris Rock is a teacher, and then think Will Smith is the student.
You know who's got the hardest job tonight? Javier Bardem and his wife are both nominated. Now, if she loses, he can't win. He is praying that Will Smith ends. Like, please, Lord. Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane jump.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
All right, stopping there. So what I want to first do is get your initial thought about when you saw this. And this is not a conversation of right or wrong, okay? Let's start. I've had this conversation several times, and so we're not having a conversation about right or wrong. We're just having a conversation about when you saw the incident, whether you saw it live or you saw it later. What was your initial reaction to what you saw? And let me be more specific. Do you think Chris Rock's joke was inappropriate? And then we'll talk about Will Smith. So it's just a yes or no. Do you think Chris Rock's joke was inappropriate? Let's put it right there. Was the joke inappropriate? Again, it's 9 o'clock. So wherever you are, I have actually coffee here. I've been drinking the same cup of coffee pretty much all day. But get your coffee, get your tea, get your wine, get your whiskey. This may be a whiskey conversation tonight. So I'll let you make that choice. But was Chris Rock's joke inappropriate? Yes or no? Put it in the chat. I'm watching you guys on Facebook as well. Was the joke inappropriate? That's the first question. And then the next question is, was Will Smith's reaction inappropriate? Yes or no? No really explanation. Just give me a yes or give me a no. Now, this is not a night you cannot be in the chat. You have to be in the chat tonight providing answers, because based on the answers, that dictates how deep I go into this thing. So if you don't want to hear me talking a lot, then you need to provide an answer. All right. So I see it. I do. That's Chris. Is that a Chris Rock? I'm going to assume that's Chris Rock first. And then the next one is Will Smith. I see yes. So yes, I do think the joke was inappropriate. And yes, I think Will Smith's behavior or response to the joke was inappropriate. Yes, duly noted. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm gonna blow this up a little bit, so you may hear me talking, but this is from Facebook and their experiences, all of that. So hello, Miss Jack. All right, so I'm watching you guys on Facebook who's not responding, but so again, this is not a right or wrong conversation. This is just giving an opinion, a perspective, and then it's really to drive the conversation. I'm not here to dignify, to disrupt, to accuse anybody of anything. I'm just looking at behaviors and actions. All right. Now, if you just joined us, what are we talking about? We're talking about this right here. Was a joke inappropriate, and was the response justified? Was the joke inappropriate? Was the response justified? It's just a yes or no, not right or wrong. That's a different conversation. Yes or no, not right or wrong. That's all I'm asking. So let's go back to the joke. Now, Miss Valeria, she couldn't give Miss a yes or no. She had to go into an explanation. So let's see what she says. So we have a yes and we have an I do, and then Miss Colbert says this. She says, considering the event they were attending, no. No for the joke. And Will's behavior was wrong. Okay. Thank you for that. So I hear so there's a conflict already. One person says the joke was inappropriate. One person says for the event itself, no, it wasn't. But they both agree that Will Smith's response was inappropriate or it was not right. Okay. Well, not I don't want to say not right. They don't think his behavior or response was appropriate. I don't want to use right or wrong. I want to use inappropriate or appropriate. All right. Right or wrong gets you into judgment based on what you feel somebody did. Right. I don't want to use that language because sometimes it can be limiting. It can be minimizing to a person. So I don't want to say right or wrong because we don't have the power to judge like that. Right. It's just based on your experience and what you think. You do feel it was inappropriate or it was appropriate. So let's talk about the joke from Chris Rock. And we're framing this or contextualizing this using Chris Rock as an example of an educator or a leader. Okay. So in the space of where he was, even as a teacher, think about the space of a classroom or of a leader in the space of your building. Can we agree that these two people were not strangers to each other? Okay. They were not strangers. They knew each other. They have known each other for many, many years. The depth of the relationship, we don't know, but we do know there was a relationship. All right. So based on that, you would likely consider that Chris Rock, being a comedian, that he could say certain things to a person that he has a relationship. As a teacher, you feel like, or as an administrator, you feel like you can say things in the context of your building or in the context of your classroom to students because there is a relationship of some sort. Not knowing the depth, but there is a relationship. Can we agree there? Let me help map this out. Let me help frame this. Let me help create a space for us to have the conversation. So there is an existing relationship between these two individuals. All right. Now, in this instance, though, Chris Rock has the upper hand because he has the mic, he has the stage, he has the platform. So in that space, there is an automatic sense, just naturally, of power that he has. Teacher, administrator. When you're in the classroom, in the front of the room, you are on stage. You have the platform. You have the power because you're delivering instruction, you're talking, you're sharing, whatever the case may be, you're on stage. Okay. As an administrator, when you lead a building, you're on a platform. You have a responsibility. You have assumed power. Chris Rock was on stage and he had power to say what he wanted to say with a person that he had a relationship with. Again, we don't know the depth, but we do know there's a relationship. Teachers have relationships with students, leaders have relationships with teachers and students, and they're on the platform. I've got more people in, so I want to capture some of these conversations because all I'm doing right now, I'm framing this out. Good evening, Dr. Stewart. She said, I believe that Will walking across the stage crossed so many boundaries, and knowing how scared the Oscars are and how moved he was to win with what in the hell was he thinking? I could have slapped him after the show. She said, I could have slapped him myself. What in the hell was he thinking slapping that man on that stage? She says, Dr. Stewart said he crossed so many boundaries. All right. Miss Jackson says, you know me. Miss Jackson can really go. She says, but you really don't want me to basically go in and say what I want to say. But she says, here we are. She probably would have had the same response. And yes, I do know you, Miss Jackson. Okay, so Chris has the mic. He has the stage. He has a platform. He's sharing something. He's giving his opinion on something. So he decides to say a joke not about Will Smith, about Will Smith's wife. Okay, let me look over here on Facebook because I know you all are probably chiming into the conversation. Now, can we agree that although the joke was not about Will, it still would likely impact Will in some way, negatively or positively? We don't know. But because of the person that the joke was about was directly related to him, he would have some sort of response. We can't control the reaction. We can only control the action. And those are the words that come out of your mouth. Okay. So now we know there's a whole backstory about what he said. So he says, Jada, I'll see you in the next G.I. Jane 2. Basically, love the bald head. I'll see you in the next part 2 of G.I. Jane. For you all who didn't know, you didn't know that the woman had alopecia. So she didn't just cut her hair off because it was a choice. She had no choice. She was losing her hair, all right, because of a medical condition. She had no control over her hair loss. She just cut it off because it was coming out anyway. Now there's the response. He had the power. He made a choice on what he wanted to say. Power. But our words have power and they cause people to respond. Right? Again, no judgment. We're not saying right or wrong. We're just saying whether we feel like it was appropriate or inappropriate. He said what he said. We caught Will laughing, but he was laughing at the previous joke. Once he heard that joke, he looked at his wife. He saw her face. He saw her response to the joke. He didn't like it. Now, here is where choice comes into play. He had several choices. Dr. Stewart said earlier that he crossed many boundaries. Okay. But even when he crossed those boundaries, they were all choices that he made. Okay. So I really want to highlight one, the trigger, which was Chris Rock, and the trigger and the triggy being Will Smith. Okay. So you have to take accountability for the things that you say to people, although your intent may not to be to upset them. You cannot control how you trigger them to respond. So there has to be accountability for the way you present yourself in a space with other people, especially people that you have a relationship with. Even that can be triggering because sometimes it's the relationship that causes the words to hurt even more, right? I use this example with my wife. If you curse me out and you're my wife, well, let me scratch. If I meet a stranger in the street and they steal from me, I'm going to be hurt, but I'm more upset about being robbed, right? I don't know the person, but I'm upset because I was robbed and the person chose to rob me. If somebody that you knows robs you, it hurts, but that thing hits a little bit different because that relationship causes a deeper level of pain and hurt, because you would have thought this person who you had a relationship with would not do something to hurt you. Okay? Whether the relationship is shallow or deep, I know you, you know me. I would have never thought you would have hurt me like that, with those words, with that accusation, with that statement. Okay? So I do think the relationship itself, because it existed, caused a triggering moment for Will Smith, because somebody that he knew, that he had a relationship with, maybe respected of some sort, or maybe there was already an agreement. Words had already been shared about expectations, about what I desire from you, how I want to be treated by you, how I want you to treat people that I love in my life. And those words could have crossed the boundary, could have crossed the goal, could have crossed the conversation, could have crossed the agreement. We don't know. We just know there was a relationship. There was something that was said that obviously pained this person, and this person made a choice to respond in a certain way. You don't have to agree with the response, people. You don't have to agree to with the response, because we all have a choice on how we respond. It's your decision. And so he made a decision. Some agree, some disagree. I'm not here to argue about that point. I'm here to talk about the choice that he made and what caused him to make that choice. So just like in a classroom, you can say something to a student that you have a relationship with that you don't intend to hurt, that you don't intend to belittle, that you don't intend to trigger. But those words causes this person to have a negative response, and something happens. That could be a verbal attack on the teacher. It could be a physical attack on the teacher. It could be damaging property. We don't know. But it triggered the person. Same thing with the leader. You come into a room with teachers and you say something that could be considered negative or disrespectful or belittling, and you can cause your teachers to explode and to come back at you in a response that you don't like. But you have to really think about what you said, and could those words be triggering, or could have been triggering to the audience, to the person that you have the relationship with. Dr. Stewart says this. My other question is, where was security? I have that same question. Listen, if you go to a Black Baptist church, there is security on the perimeter of the stage, sometimes on the stage. They're standing in the corner. They're trying to make sure nobody bum rush that stage and attacks the preacher. Okay. If a preacher, a bishop, a pastor, a cardinal, a reverend could have security, where is the security at the Oscars? Why was nobody up there when he took his first step? They was like, no, you're not allowed on the stage. Nobody stopped him. And I'm not going to take the chance to say, oh, I never thought he was going to go up there and hit him. You don't know what he was going to do. When somebody walks into that kind of space, it's unpredictable. So you don't let it happen, but they let him walk up there. He walked his habit up on that stage and commits to slapping that man right in his face. I like to say he asked Chris to not say his wife's name. And what he was going to do was ensure he didn't say his wife's name. How did he do that? He literally slapped the words out the man's mouth. Jada flew out of his mouth. The name flew out of his mouth. And he said, keep my wife's name out your effing mouth. And Chris Rock, because he had the word slapped out. He said, I will. Man, I will. I won't. I'll keep her name out of my mouth. Slap the name Jada right out the man's mouth. My God, my God. Drummer says because he's also a comedian and they have interacted before. Yeah, so it was a little bit deeper in my opinion. Like I said, it doesn't matter the depth of the relationship, the fact there was a relationship, that interaction, it just hit a little different. Okay, so let's go back. Teachers say things to students. Principals say things to teachers. Principals and teachers say things to parents. Now, you wonder why parents come to the school and show their whole back part. Because sometimes you say things to them that is intimidating, belittling, disrespectful, hurtful. And some of these parents you don't even have a relationship with, and you don't think they're going to respond in a negative way? I doubt that. They are. Uh, Dr. Stewart says Chris Rock needs to sue the Oscars and will. That sounds about like $10 million. Now, there's a whole other conversation about they asked him to leave. He didn't leave. In what place does security ask you to leave and you can tell somebody, no, I'm not leaving? If I went and slapped somebody in a room and the cops came and asked me to leave, you think I have the right to tell them I'm not leaving? No, they're going to drag my butt out of there. They're going to escort me out of the room. I don't have that choice. Leaving means leave. It's not an option. So if you ask him to leave, why does he think he has the option to say no? There's not an option. Mr. Smith, I'm telling you, it's time to go. You are being asked to leave nicely right now. Okay? Nicely. Now, the next time, we're not going to ask you nicely because that will involve you willingly getting up. The next time, nothing's going to be willing. We're just going to get you up and we're going to take you out of here. All right? So, good evening, Brother Reynolds. Thank you for watching. You know what we're talking about. We're talking about that slap. Jada flew out that man's mouth. Now, so again, the reaction. You can't control it. But he said a joke. Many people do say the joke was inappropriate, but Will's response was way too deep. Now, this is what I want you to think about. Remember, we're framing this out. You have students in the classroom. You have teachers in the building. You have parents that are coming in. You have no clue kind of where they are in their minds. We're in the world of social emotional beings. It's very heightened right now. People are experiencing a lot. We know Will has gone through a lot of teasing, a lot of bantering, a lot of being made funny of through memes and all types of jokes, right? Just based on some things that they have shared in their life as husband and wife. So we don't know how emotionally charged he is. Now, he doesn't seem emotionally charged. People that are upset, people that are depressed, people that are suicidal, oftentimes we say, I never thought they would do that. They didn't look depressed. They didn't look sad. They didn't look suicidal. But it only takes one thing to trigger them. And once they're triggered, you can see an explosive response. Unbelievable. Because what we saw was unbelievable. Mind-blowing. We never fathomed that would happen, especially happen to this person by this person, right? We see things happen all the time in school buildings, and they always say, I never thought that would happen. But it did. This happened. Let's take another comment. Drummer says, I believe that the academy was trying to approach the situation in a more dignified way. Drummer, here's my opinion. Dignity had already left the building. Dignity had already left the building. So now you have to address it in the space that violent, volatile, triggering. You need to bring calm to the situation because everybody has just witnessed this. It's just not who were live in the building, around the world. People saw this. And so she says to forcefully remove him from the crowd would have been even more of a spectacle. Not if you go to a commercial break. Right? The same way here in America, we didn't hear what he said because they had muted it and blacked out the screen. You black out that screen, you escort him out. Right? Because that behavior is unacceptable. So there was ways that they could have done it. They chose not to. Once again, that was a choice. That was a choice. So they allowed him to stay. They gave him a choice. They made a choice. And then therefore, they allowed him to stay. You can't say he said he wasn't going to. He refused to leave. That shouldn't have been his choice. Right? And now here we are having this conversation about why was he allowed to stay in that space. Even the host, Wanda Sykes, said it was disgusting to see him being able to sit there through the rest of that ceremony, win an award, and give a speech, and return back to his seat, and go and party afterwards like nothing happened. Right? So there were a lot of choices happening in this whole kit and caboodle of things, right? A whole lot of choices. So what he decides to do, and I don't know if that's what he was going to do when he walked up there, but by the time he got there, that's what he decided to do. He decided to slap that man. across his face. Disrespect him. Let's just go and be honest, just tell the truth. Okay. It was a very violent act to see and quite disgusting. That's my opinion. I'm sorry. I'm not I shouldn't be expressing opinions, but it was very hard to watch because it was unbelievable. I just never thought I would have seen that. Drummer says this is true. However, in other countries, it is actually broadcast live. Exactly, and they didn't mute it. They don't have the kind of delay that we have, right? So America had a little delay; they could block it out. Australia didn't have that delay, and they just let it run. They let they let that live feed keep going, and they saw and heard everything, right? So maybe they need to do a better job. But of course, in the world of social media, if it happens in Australia, we'll see it. I literally saw that video a few minutes later on YouTube. I saw everything, and that brought clarity to me because one of the things was like, well, is this real? Was it a joke? No, it was real. When I watched his body language after he slapped him and turned around, when you saw his face, his body language, he was upset. And when he sat down, then you heard the words come in his mouth. You then knew this was not a joke. This was real. This gentleman was super upset. He had been triggered. He had been triggered. Now, based on your previous statement, Drummer, Dr. Stewart agreed with you about the academy, and they were trying to keep it dignified. But like I said, dignity had already left the room. It had already been destroyed. There was no more dignity at the point. And let's backtrack. Even when he said the joke, how do you know many people didn't find the joke humorous? Because after he said the joke, the whole room were kind of disgruntled, like, oh, that was kind of like a low blow, right? They did not like the joke. So the joke didn't even hit. All right. It didn't even hit. It didn't go over well. And his response was not to Will and Jada. His response was to the audience, like, hey, come on, guys. It's just come on, it's a joke. It's a G.I. Jane joke. And then Will responded. So high pressure. So he's not just responding to his wife's face. Will is responding to the room itself and his emotional chargedness because of what was said. It's a lot. Think about it. It's a lot happening, right? There was a lot going on. Let's keep going. You guys are doing a great job. Dr. Stewart says, I mean, they were both out of line, but come on, y'all. Will knew he couldn't get away with that if some white folks produced that show. I feel he knew he could get away with that kind of behavior. I agree, but I don't even know in his mind when he at his highest level of anger, I don't even think he even acknowledged at that point who that show was being produced by. I don't think he made the connection. I think his anger was so targeted and specific and was rooted in something that we don't know specifically. I don't think that crossed his mind. I think later he regretted the fact that he took that moment from that African-American producer of that show. And you're right, this is the first time in history that a black person produced that show, even the set production that was done by a black woman, right? So there were a lot of first times for people of color in that show. And let's just go back. There was a lot of diversity, and there was a lot of black and brown people that were honored in that ceremony. Even the 3 female hosts who did a wonderful job. I mean, was the funniest Oscars I've ever watched. Okay. But it all got thrown away because of his behavior. So let's take it back to schools and education. Teachers, you trigger a student, you say something that they don't like. If you say something that causes them to kind of go back and you kind of poke something that caused pain, that caused hurt, that caused embarrassment, you have to be careful what you say because you can trigger students to behave in ways that you never expected. Your words have power. And then their response comes back with an equal level of power, but from a different perspective, from a different emotion. Leaders, your words have power. If you talk to your teachers or your parents in a certain way, you can trigger them and you're going to cause a response. And the first thing you're going to do, call campus police, get them arrested. You're going to call the lawyer. You want to call for an evidentiary hearing. You want to call for their resignation. You want to write them up. You want to do all these things. But remember, we have power in the words that we say. There's power that comes out of this tongue. Life and death, good and bad, right and wrong, starts right here. We have to be careful because you can be a trigger that causes somebody to respond in a way that you may not like at the end, that may cause you to be embarrassed. So as a teacher, you can do something to a student, they respond in a way destroy your whole classroom environment. They may look at you, they being other students, they could look at you in a way that they no longer respect you. Principals, you can destroy your character with your staff and with your community if you say something, because now people are looking at you, holding you accountable for what you said. Still holding the person accountable for the way they behaved. It was inappropriate. It was inappropriate. There were several other choices that could have been made. Let me tell you one choice. I'll be honest with you. This is one choice that I said. If you want it to be violent, which I don't agree with violence, but let's say you want it to be violent. He could have walked behind that stage when Chris Rock walked off, caught him in a corner and backstage, and went ahead and went to work, came back to his seat and sat down. And it wouldn't have been aired live on TV. They would have been talking about it, but they wouldn't have had any footage. And it would have been my word, or I say my word, Chris Rock's word against Will's word about what happened in the back. But here, this was broadcast. Like, we saw it all. He could have said, hey, I need to talk to you. How many times have you heard people's, like, when you know they're upset, it's like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. Let's talk over here real quick. And you get him over there. You get to roughen that guy up or roughen that girl up, because your goal was just to get him over there in that corner. And once you got him, boy, you go to work. He could have went and got him in private and went to work on him, but not in a public forum like that. Live television. He slapped that man across his face. Will I hold you accountable, brother? And I think you need to be dealt with. I want you to continue to seek counseling. But Chris, you have to be careful, because your words have power, because you assume the relationship would not have caused him to respond in that manner. Teachers, you have power. And just because you have relationships with students, it does not give you the liberty to say certain things that could cause hurt, pain, or embarrassment and trigger them to act in a negative way. And then you say, I don't know what happened. I don't know what I did. I don't know why they will respond that way. Principals, you have a responsibility. Be careful what you say. Your words could be triggering. And you wonder why that teacher came in there and flipped your desk over. I don't know what happened. All I told her was that she was an ineffective teacher. I've never seen that kind of teacher in my life. It's the worst teacher I've ever seen. That's all I said. And the next thing I knew, my desk was on the floor. Flipped it right over. Got to be accountable. You tell that parent, ma'am, I'm glad you're here. You have the worst child I've ever seen in the world. And next thing you know, that teacher, that parent tells you, you are one sorry mother. You the worst, and I ought to whoop you up. You stupid. I don't know what all I said was a child was the worst child in the world. I've never seen a child this bad before. That did not equate to this kind of behavior. I can't believe she would do that. I can't believe he would do that. That's not your call at that point. You don't know the depth of what you said, how that hit. All right, let's look at Drummer. Drummer says this. So what I think is that security did not want to catch any of those hands. That 5-finger discount. That's what Drummer talking about, because they had just demonstrated how swift and mighty he was with that open hand slap. He did. He came. Did y'all see? Oh, we're not going to do that. I'm not even going to do it. Plus, we have to keep in mind who he is. Who he is, right? Definitely who he is. He has power. He has money. He has wealth. He has celebrity. Who wants to be seen dragging Will Smith out of the Adobe Theater, right? Nobody. Nobody wants to be the person to do it. But should it have been done? Yeah, it should have been done. It should have been done. I definitely think it should have been done. But we did see the power of that 5-finger discount that he had. We saw that. Now, I always say this too. It could have been worse, because Will walked up to that stage, or walked up on the stage. He actually stopped, and then he slapped him. Now, for all of my science people out there, when you stop motion, you stop momentum. Okay, so he did not go into that slap with as much force as he could have gone into, because he stopped his momentum when he stopped and stood still and then slapped. Now, what I want you to imagine is this. Will Smith didn't walk on that stage. He ran on that stage. Imagine Will. He's so upset. He's charging that stage. He's running. And when he gets to Chris Rock, he does not stop running, but he extends that right hand. right here, that 5-finger discount. He extends it back. And still in running motion, he's still going forward. And he comes, bow! He comes down on Chris Rock. He comes down on that man's face. Now, do you think Chris Rock would have still been standing there? Look at this. No, he would not have been standing. Let me tell you what would have happened had Will Smith ran on that stage and slapped him. You see that? If you look all the way in the back of that stage where those lights are coming up, that's what Chris Rock would have slid to. Okay, he would have slid all the way back to those lights because Will Smith is not a small guy, people. Will Smith would have slapped him, and Chris Rock would have slid backwards to those lights. He probably thought he was seeing heaven, that it was his time to go, because he was gonna see the light. Okay, so thank God that didn't happen. Okay, thank God that did not. Thank God he did not slap that man to the back of that stage, and thank God Chris was able to stand there and talk and be professional after he took that 5-finger discount. It was inappropriate, totally inappropriate. But we're talking about triggers. And can we sometimes say things, do things to people that can trigger them to respond in a negative way? Based on this conversation, based on what we saw, and based on what we know that happens in buildings and classrooms with teachers and leaders, students, and parents every day, we have to say yes. There's a certain level of accountability that we have to take when we have the stage, when we have the microphone, when we have a platform, when we have assumed power. Now, let's go ahead. Let's see what Mr. Reynolds says. Mr. Reynolds says this. He would have had a well whooped on that stage. This is in reference to Will running on that stage. Or are you saying that's what Will would have had you been Chris Rock? Now, let's go back. Even with this, we have seen stories where a teacher triggers a student responds, and then the teacher responds back. When you see those scuffles between teachers and students in classrooms, that's what's happening. This teacher is like, oh, you're not going to whoop I'm going to whoop yo. I'm going to get you. And you find teachers in scuffles with students. You find leaders in scuffles with teachers. You find parents fighting in buildings with other adults in the building. Because they're like, hey, I came to handle business and you playing around. You're not going to disrespect me. And boom, altercation occurs. Violence ensues. Luckily, in this case, it was not retaliated against. He stopped. I think he thought about what was said. After the words Jada flew out of his mouth, he no longer could say it. And I think he was able to process quietly and quickly about what had occurred. He made a decision. Again, just like Will, he had a choice. He chose not to return the violence. Stay professional, finish his bit, and get off that stage. So we have mad respect for Chris for the way he handled himself and the way he responded in that moment. It is to be respected. It is to be applauded, because there are people who would not have responded that way. Maybe me. I can't say. I don't know what I would have done, y'all. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what I would have done. I would like to think that I would have responded the way that Chris Rock responded, but I cannot make any guarantees. I'm from the projects in Columbus, Georgia. Okay. I'm no stranger to a little fisticuff, a little throw on those hands, a little 5-finger discount, a little 2-piece. So I don't know. Ms. Jackson says this: when you love someone, sometimes you react first. I think is what she's trying to say. You don't think. So when you love somebody, sometimes it's your response is coming from the heart. So you don't have time to think with your head. You respond with your heart. And so when your heart is hurt or when your heart is broken, sometimes you see these acts of passion, of love, because of a broken heart. And I think this may have been that type of example. We may be seeing a man who's exploding because his heart is broken. For whatever reason, we don't know all of the reasons, but we see somebody who's having a breakdown in front of us, but that breakdown could be a breakdown of his heart because it's crushed. And this is what that looks like in response. So we don't know. But I want to wrap this up. One, because I just had to get me a little piece of this action so we could talk about this conversation. I just want to frame it and contextualize it a little bit different from the perspective of educators. Be careful what you say. And just because you have a relationship doesn't give you permission to use your power and your platform and your microphone to say things that could be hurtful, embarrassing, and painful to people and trigger them to respond in a negative way. That then causes them to be regretful and apologetic about what they did later on. And we all know that sometimes people can do things in response to something else, and sometimes the apology, the sorry, is not enough because it can't change the outcome and the consequences that they are now going to face based on the choice that they made. So we all have to make better choices. The trigger and the triggy. For the triggies, let me say this: don't allow people to trigger you in ways that you can't control your behavior. You two have to be accountable. And then for the trigger, don't do that to people. Be accountable. Think first, speak second. And then thirdly, respond appropriately. Think, speak, respond in that order. That's what we have to do so that we can make sure that we are respecting those that we have relationships with inside of the classroom, inside of the buildings, and outside of the buildings. Because we've seen all three of those happen and have negative consequences in ways that people are totally regretful and always embarrassed about how that ended up. So we can do better. So with that being said, I want to say, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, I had to get a little piece of this action because you've been talking about it. Anyway, why not talk about it with me? Thank you, guys. You guys have been so active in the chat. Great participants. I didn't even have a chance to throw the live link in to have somebody come in and join me because you all were flooding the chat so well tonight. So I want you to keep that same energy next week. I will be back 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to see your faces in the space. Thank you again for joining. This has been an awesome teacher talk. I hope that somebody's walking away with something that they can use because this was about having a teachable moment. After the slap, after the 5-finger discount, after the response, we talked about teachable moments to help you avoid being the trigger. Don't be the trigger, everybody. Thank you again for watching. Have a great night. I want you guys to have a great weekend. Whatever you have planned, be safe, but enjoy yourself. Relax. 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 It's okay. If you want to just sit down and kick your feet up, do that. You deserve it. Nobody's judging you. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to run this promo. Don't forget, hoodies, sweatshirts, t-shirts, long sleeve tees, all those things are available on the website. Go check them out. All proceeds are going to help me provide financial support to 5 individuals who are wanting to make that transition into college or university setting. Please be support. Go support. Go buy something. Remember, these things are fashionable. Like I'm just not your little Joe Blow just rocking anything. So I would love to see you rock some fully engaged Edwear, some fully engaged merch. Great stuff. Great style. I think you're gonna love it. And so again, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time. Again, 9 o'clock next time p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget, if you're on YouTube, go on over there and subscribe to the channel. Okay? Peace, guys. Love you. Do you believe in wearing fashion that spread positive messages? Well, Fully Engaged Education now offers merchandise that will do just that. And we we are spreading the word that a high quality education is deserving of every student, everywhere, every day. Fully Engaged Education has now crafted beautifully designed hoodies, sweatshirts, long and short sleeve tees that come in a variety of colors that will be perfect for any season. So go check out Fully Engaged Education and select those beautiful pieces that will be sure to set off any outfit that you plan to wear. Fully Engaged Education is committed to providing information and access to ensure every student is successful and every student has an opportunity to learn. Do you believe in wearing fashions that spread